Half-O-Ween, everyone. I hope that everyone's doing okay. I hope that you're doing okay. I just wanted to do something fun today to just sort of continue our good vibes because I am always here for vibes, okay? I thought that today it would be kind of fun to do a spooky questions tag. I pulled one up online. The link for this will be down in the description. And the first question is, favorite horror or Halloween themed song? This one is really difficult. It's really a tie between The Girl with the Haunted House Tattoo by The Long Losts and Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. The next question is, name something you wouldn't want to run into in a dark forest or in an abandoned building. I think that's the scariest thing, really, is just another person. Like, I don't know, there's just something... People are very scary. Have you ever played with a Ouija board? I have not. I collect Ouija board things. I'm really interested in what they stand for and the history of them. Half of me is like, hey, it's a toy. You know, it's made by like, what, Hasbro? And then the other half of me is like, well, okay, but it stands for something else. The Ouija board is not the tool. You are the tool. It's not my thing. It's not my desire to fuck with anything on the other side. Favorite horror monster or villain? That's really difficult. Part of me just wants to go with classic Bela Lugosi Dracula. Just because that's OG. That's the reason that I'm obsessed with vampires. It just, yeah, we're gonna go with that. The creepiest thing that's ever happened while you were alone. So I've had a couple interesting instances happen in my life. I would say not necessarily when I was alone, but when I was with a friend and no one else was around. I've had just general haunting things happen, large bangs out of nowhere, hearing footsteps, voices, shadows, and it's just sort of one of those things that it's not scary, but it's weird. It's jarring, maybe, every time that it happens. Yeah, I've had a couple friends' houses that were very obviously haunted. So, if you dared to spend the night in a haunted house, would you do it? Yeah. I'm not scared of sleeping in a haunted house. My house was built in 1880 and I live in Salem, so most houses are haunted here. Are you superstitious? I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. I am somewhat superstitious when it comes to supernatural things, when it comes to, like I mentioned before, Ouija boards and things like that, where you're kind of warned that something could happen. But when it comes to stereotypical things like, you know, black cats are bad luck, walking under ladders is bad luck, things like that, I tend to not pay attention to those. Do you ever see figures in your peripheral vision? I have a lot in my life. Not as much in this house, which is funny because this is the oldest house that I've ever lived in and seems the most haunted, but the house that I lived in growing up, I feel like had a very dark energy to it, and I don't know if it was just the grounds that the house was built on, but I saw a lot more dark figures in my peripheral vision. Hi, sweetie. Lydia's down here. I think she might want to be in the video. You want to come up here, Annie? You want to come up here and help me answer questions? Okay. Which urban legend scares you the most? Well, this is gonna sound really basic, but I would probably say Bloody Mary was up there. Was up there on my list. But then also, where I grew up, there was an urban legend about the Bunny Man and Bunny Man's Bridge. And if you don't know what those are, you should Google them because it's very interesting. And that was sort of like our most local urban legend where I grew up in Virginia. And so that was always kind of really spooky. And I did end up going to the bridge and seeing it for myself. And it was cool. It was really neat. So it's maybe not the most scary, but it's one that interests me the most. Do you prefer gore or thrillers? What do you think? Do you prefer gore or thrillers? For me, I am not a big gore person. I will watch gore. It's not a problem, but I tend to get bored if it's just a bunch of gore for no reason. So my rule sort of with horror movies is gory with a story. So I would have to lean toward thrillers because gore doesn't excite me all that much. Do you believe in multiple dimensions or worlds? Absolutely. I don't even have to explain that. It's like not believing in aliens or other intelligent life in the universe. Ever made a potion of any sort? This is kind of a weird question because you could consider a mixed drink a potion, consider potpourri to be a potion, mix different dried herbs and flowers. So, I mean, I think that most people, whether they know it or not, have. Do you get scared easily? Not really. I'm not very jumpy. I've gone into haunted house attractions by myself. I don't really get scared at jump scares or anything like that. I would say when it comes down to it, my imagination can sometimes get the best of me, and the worst thing is when I'm watching a scary movie and I'm unbothered by the whole thing, and then I am going to bed alone in the dark in my house, and that's when things start to get crazy. So that's probably more it than anything. Have you ever played Bloody Mary? Like I said before, superstitious about supernatural stuff? No. Do you believe in demons or the devil? I mean, part of me wants to believe in demons, but I don't really believe in necessarily there is the God and the devil's the bad guy and God's the good guy, and I think it's a really, it's a complicated answer, but I'm gonna lean more toward no. If you're home alone but you hear footsteps in your house, what do you do? So, in my house, if I knew that the doors were locked and the alarm was on and there was no way that person was in the house, then I would know that it was a ghost. And I would tell it to fuck off, honestly. When I first moved into this house, I was still sleeping on an air mattress in the downstairs level. And 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard footsteps going up and down the stairs. And I just shouted out, I was alone, and I just shouted out, like, you need to cut that shit out. It's the middle of the night and I'm trying to sleep. And I haven't had an issue since. If you got trapped in one scary movie, which would you choose? I don't know if I want to be trapped in any scary movie. I feel like life right now is a scary movie, so if you could only wear one Halloween costume for the rest of your life, what would you be? I want to say because I've been Lydia for Halloween so many times in different variations, whether it's the movie, the cartoon, or the musical. So I'm just going to say generic Lydia. Would you ever go to a graveyard at night? Absolutely. If I was allowed to be in the graveyard, I was given permission to be in the graveyard, I would spend all night there. I would put up a tent. I would camp. I would actually love to do that. Someone please give me permission to go to a graveyard at night. In a zombie apocalypse, what is your weapon of choice? I'd most likely say a rifle so I could shoot them in the head if I had to. But if I couldn't have that, I would probably say a baseball bat covered in barbed wire or rusty nails. Would you rather go to a Halloween party or go trick-or-treating? I love both. I really do miss trick-or-treating though. That's something that I wish that I could still be doing and not stared at weirdly by people. If you're in a horror movie, are you the final girl, the first to die, the comic relief, the skeptic, the smart one, or the killer? I would definitely say final girl. I definitely feel realistically, if I was put in a horror movie, that's most likely what would be the thing. That's always how my nightmares go. I'm always the last person to survive and just barely makes it out, super traumatized. Yeah, it's great. Do you have to watch something happy after watching a horror movie so you can go to sleep? Like I said, I have quite an imagination and it can sometimes get away from me, so it really depends on the movie. If I'm watching something that's more traumatic and more psychological, usually I will have to put on something more happy afterwards. But when it comes down to, was it just a scary movie in general? Usually no. Whilst watching scary movies, are you the person who yells at the characters, the person with their eyes covered the whole time, or the person who falls asleep? Not gonna lie, I have been the person who falls asleep, but generally I would be closer to the person who yells at the characters. Are you the one who gets scared or the one who does the scaring? About 90% I'm the one who does the scaring. I was actually at Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream one time, and one of the scare actors helped me scare a friend that was in my group. It was really fun. Favorite scary book? Again, this is probably gonna sound basic, but Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is really up there. That was one that I used to read all the time as a kid with, you know, the original illustrations, and it's something that really influenced my art and my creativity growing up. So I would definitely have to put that up there. I also had this really thick book of just a whole bunch of spooky Halloween stories that I used to carry around with me at school about 4th or 5th grade through the entire month of October. And any chance that I had, I would just read a scary story. How old were you when you saw your first horror movie? That's hard for me to even say. I was really little when I remember watching Psycho and Salem's Lot, but I mean, I want to say I was probably about 4 or 5. My parents were both into Halloween and just general spookiness, and so it was nice to be able to grow up in that kind of environment. What was your first Halloween costume? I'm pretty sure it was a pumpkin. What are you going to be for Halloween this year? Well, since I've already announced it, my boyfriend Cooper and I are going as Nadja and Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows, and we're really excited about it. If you could have a spooky Halloween pet, black cat, owl, bat, rat, wolf, what would you pick? I love black cats so much, and they really get a bad rap, and it makes me really sad, so I would love to adopt a black cat. I did want to add a bonus one. Is like what a horror movie traumatized you the most? And for me, I would have to say Ghost Ship, because when I watched that, I was about 11 or 12. It was 2005. And I was on a cruise ship. And for people who know the scene where the lights above the pool snap or are cut and what happens, let's just say I avoided the pool for the rest of the cruise. So that's it for the tag. Please feel free to do it. Anyone who wants to answer these questions, please tag me and let me know. I'd love to know what your answers are. Let me know what you're doing for Halloween, if you've made any plans yet, since we're now more than halfway there. We're past that halfway point, and I'm sure in a time of uncertainty and just honestly scariness, it's nice to have something to look forward to. Thank you for watching Ash Wednesday, and I'll see you next week.